Hello everyone, my name is Kane Kramer and today I have Sham and Sirash with me. Today we have a new format. Together, we will be examining political power. Today the heroine of our video will be Angela Merkel. I would also like to add that there will be links to our social media in the video description. Don't fall for fake news because there is a lot of it out there. There will also be a link to a military donation jar in the video description. You can make a donation if you have the means and the desire to do so. Your donation will reach them without intermediaries. So you can be sure it will get to where it needs to go. And also share your thoughts in the comments about our new format.
This is an experimental format we have with Genya, where we want to periodically explore some interesting political figures and answer your questions about the mystification and information surrounding those political actors that we will be observing together with you.
As I already mentioned, today our guest will be Angela Merkel. Today we will look at her, both psychologically and, as always, we will address your questions. So we are starting with the psychological aspect now, and then we will move structurally to your questions. The first thing I always look at, because Alexander doesn't really focus on the psychological aspect, is that I'll be more of the host in this case. So the first thing we're looking at is Anichka. This is who the person really was in essence, without those, political masks, but as she really, who is she? It's Angela Merkel herself, not just a politician. The first card I have is the victim. And I'm curious, a victim of what? A victim of her loneliness, a dark goddess. We are victims of our loneliness. We never felt that we were loved, that we loved, and so on. So we have this inner loneliness where we are. In life and in principle, she often talked about how family means everything to her. But honestly, I don't see that. She is a victim of her loneliness. I have another card, the critic. Our lady was very often dissatisfied with a lot of things. She's always unhappy about something. This is not right. This is not it. There is always your own opinion. The opinion that should be more important. The opinion is the final authority. And that's it. So she has this, first of all, it lies very close. And most likely because of this dissatisfaction, this discontent with her loneliness, we see this critic emerge. Because there is no inner and soulful fulfillment. What do I want to say? In principle, she is satisfied with her wealth. She is satisfied with her job. A harsh person, I wouldn't say she's cruel. We can be harsh, but in moments when we need to act decisively and quickly, she can be harsh, she can step on others and so on. Self-esteem, well, it's more of an acquired thing. Self-esteem here is a card of weight. It's played well. That is, it's an inflated self-esteem. It's originality. It's status and so on. So it didn't shake her sanity. Most likely because she achieved what she wanted, So she has this sense of this moment that we achieved what we wanted. We broke free in life to where we wanted to go, where we needed to go. It replaced her loneliness with a sense of family and similar feelings that we weren't loved and we didn't love. Plus, she is very, very stingy with her emotions. This moment that we achieved what we wanted, we broke free in life to where we wanted to go, where we needed to go. It replaced her loneliness with a sense of family and similar feelings that we weren't loved and we didn't love. Plus, she is very, very stingy with her emotions. She loves emotions, but she herself is very reserved when it comes to expressing them. Plus, she is very, very stingy with her emotions. A person loves emotions, but she herself is very stingy with them. Really, very, very much.
Well, you have a stingy emotion and I have a stingy approach to life. Because I have the reverse 6 of Pentacles, and this is a person who is petty. She's literally petty. So it's saving for the sake of saving when there is absolutely no sense in it. It's unclear why. And this, in principle, explains to her most likely a certain way of life that is being demonstrated Not because she is so close to the people, but because she is just petty in herself. That's the first point. The second point, I see a very deep trauma in her related to the figure of her father, most likely. She's really affected by her father. First of all, she is quite static, and it actually annoys her that she's static. If the upright Four of Swords appears, it tells us that the person accepts their static nature, their insecurity, their indecisiveness, their inactivity in certain moments. But here it's reversed. It's really shaking her up. So here she's in the reverse position. She's really twitchy from the moment when she is static or when she does nothing. So this is about a person who can't relax, can't give themselves. It's not just that a person can't rest, but when they feel useless, it starts to trigger them. So she is trying so hard to find sublimation for her loneliness in this kind of most likely social political activity.
Movers, so I don't have to think about how very lonely I am.
And some kind of trauma, it's not about sexual violence, no. This is exactly about psychological trauma related to the figure of a father who wasn't there. The foundation for her is how a father should be. So I understand that the parental figure, the figure of her father, didn't instill in her or instilled something completely wrong. Instead, maybe he was too soft for her, or on the contrary, too harsh. So the figure of the father has inflicted some kind of trauma on us since childhood, and that's why we are like this now. Moreover, she is quite destructive in herself. So she enters society, and around her, a tower is happening. She is literally breaking down some established human theses. All of this stuff, she's literally breaking down some established human theses. All of this stuff. Although the most interesting thing is that according to the Two of Pentacles, she most likely does not live by the principles that she advises someone to follow. So it's interesting when a person can give advice just fine, but they don't actually live by their own advice. They lead a completely different life. That's a psychological moment. It's fascinating. A person can give advice just fine, but they don't actually live by their own advice. They lead a completely different life. That's a psychological moment.
Interesting. By the way, she has this kind of energy a man in a skirt, I want to say, really, man in a skirt. So what are we looking at next? We're going to see how she sees herself. There's one moment when we are as we are, and then there's the moment of our view of ourselves. How did she see herself? In categorically different people. The first card is the Fool, which means she perceives herself quite positively in a way that she thinks she's really cool and truly wonderful. She has this ability to connect with people, not just to gain their trust, but to find common ground with them. She's very communicative, easygoing, and approachable, and so on.
Communicative and engaging.
Yes. I really said that well. So now I want to reveal the card of the pig. Oh, God.
Judge, pig, and hero.
What I want to say is exactly about what you're talking about. This is about her stinginess. So, it's like I'm hoarding. I don't show anyone how much I have. I don't tell anyone what I have, but I'm just so wealthy and like a judge. This is mine. And that's it. And even if you shoot and so on. Moreover, we were aware of our stinginess. We understood this stinginess. But for some reason, this is likely because the hero card's shadow in the archetype suggests this behavior has been with her since childhood, reflecting hoarding. This stinginess is about preparation. She sees it not as stinginess, but as a rational way to save money. The Four of Pentacles card in the 9th month shows a death leading someone to hell, clinging to 4 coins. It's that stinginess for the sake of being prepared for anything.
So she doesn't see this stinginess as a problem. She considers it a rational approach to saving money. Because I draw Well, like the Four of Pentacles. And for those who don't know, in the 9th month, there's already death, leading a guy to hell, and he's clinging to his 4 coins. And here, a person realizes before death that they're doing something foolish. They're already being led to die, and they're still holding on to everything. But here, no, I just think I'm very frugal, and I don't spend on things that seem unnecessary to me. And then a person realizes before death that he's doing some kind of nonsense, that he is already being led to die, and in it, he is losing everything. But here, no, I just think I'm very economical. I don't spend on things that seem unnecessary to me. It's not about stinginess, it's about saving. I'm so economical. Look at me, I'm doing great in that sense. She sees herself not as stingy, but more like, economical.
Secondly, she's really proud of the fact that she's, in my opinion, the first woman to reach all these positions. This really boosted her. It really raised her self-esteem, first of all. Secondly, she used her feminine qualities to crawl her way up to leadership. We have the leader card and the nymph. This is using her charming qualities, although I wouldn't say you can really feel the feminine vibes coming from her. But we use that. But what I want to say is that she could have done more because the Fool card is nearby. She could have done more, but nonetheless, she didn't quite reach for even more. What does the Fool card tell us? She talks about the fact that the person was one-dimensional. That is, besides politics, she knew little and was good at little, etc. That is what I want to say is people are good. A person can know 350 languages, 450 or so sciences, etc. So similar. But besides that, aside from work, aside from all these scientific things, we as individuals, even for ourselves, socially and personally, are very closed off. We don't understand who we are.
I see an interesting suffering that has emerged in her, how she sees herself. I took any path that wasn't legal, but rather a warrior's path. I went to fight. I am a warrior. I am a warrior by the Ace of Swords. I am a warrior with wings. I carry distorted justice, although for her it's not distorted. I fight for this justice. And the most interesting thing is that inside Iron Fraud, there is the Sun card. I fight for this justice. And the most interesting thing is that inside Iron Fraud, there is the Sun card. She is an immature girl, a truly immature girl, who has some kind of dependencies. And here we need to figure out what dependencies there are. We'll dig into the dependencies. Well, yes, dependencies, internal imbalance. But yes, she definitely has unconventional thinking in a certain way, unconventional approach or unconventional thinking. And she chooses unconventional paths at times, but they turn out to be warrior-like and unlawful. But she's an immature girl who has dependencies. So inside Iron Frau, there's a scared little girl who is afraid that everyone will find out she's scared. A little girl, I got it. A little girl who is afraid that everyone will find out she's scared. A little girl.
I understand. Basically, yes. The Fool card in us is similar to this one. We already talked about it. She knew herself that she was very stingy with emotions, very stingy with any kind of openness and honesty. We kept everything inside ourselves, and in general, it flows into that jug, but it is bottomless, and there is always not enough. That is, emotions. We should always have emotions, good, bad, depend on them. What I want to say is that we have some understanding of the spiritual, which likely comes more from the Father. She can come to the rescue, she can help, she can really give good advice. It's just that I have a wounded healer here in relation to what you were saying. I give you advice, but life just keeps stomping on. The victim card and the torturer, I want to know who the torturer is, whether it's related to the father or to the victimization about what we talked about. I am a victim of my loneliness, and tormentor was both external and internal. The killer card. This is already interesting, but still, the dark goddess, this most likely is where we cut off our right to happiness at the root, I would say. We cut off and kill this dark goddess, our right to happiness at the root. So a person either didn't allow themselves to fall in love, or they wanted to, or it just happened. Something just doesn't make sense to me. What they wanted or what just happened is something I don't quite understand. Chilo. So these are internal. First of all, we have harsh masculine energies plus the killer card. Sometimes we can be cruel in how we express love to another person. It's distorted, but this is her expression of love. We are both tormentor and victim to ourselves and the environment. She is not the Queen of Swords for me, she is the King of Swords. This is because she seems ashamed of being in a woman's body.
The most interesting thing is that she is not my Queen of Swords, she is my King of Swords. And this is because she seems to be ashamed of being in a woman's body. You know, it's like I'm starting to reject everything feminine in myself, which I think makes women weak. I'm rooting it out and becoming the King of Swords. Here, we're talking about the King of Swords. I am rooting it out in myself and becoming the King of Swords. This is about the King of Swords. This isn't even a queen who is a tough woman. It's a man in a woman's body intruding, meaning I'm rooting out all this femininity in myself. That is, it doesn't clash, so to speak, with any position that she's trying to uphold. Like, you know, there's talk about a happy marriage, about the importance of that marriage, that whole story.
No, well, with our understandable baggage there, we can understand that the marriages there were not very happy.
But she even, as I said, is rooting out her feminine traits. It's completely eliminating the feminine.
Yes, right now we're looking at the positive sides of her character, which have helped both in her activities and in life in general. Yes. Oh my God, she has martyr cards everywhere. So, just so you understand, people, most of the cards I drew came out in the shadow. What's really interesting is that the shadow aspects of a person, essentially, the negative sides of their character, actually give them a plus in their life overall. And in you, mostly, they're inverted, by the way. And everyone is like that too. The first card is the rebel. This is what we were talking about. I'm always dissatisfied. I always have my own point of view. I will go against it. This is an oppositional person. No matter what you say, it doesn't matter how you say it. And I do it like this. I would do it like this. We are rebelling. I would do it like this. We are rebelling. We're really arguing. We really get into these arguments and conflicts because that's just how we're wired inside. This King of Swords, as you say, we have quite a strong presence here, but you know what the downside is? The downside of this map is that we were even going against what might have been normal, and we rejected other people's wisdom, and we rejected other people's normal things. We always went against something, always relying only on our own understanding, only on our own concepts, not allowing what could have really been normal to develop.
In addition to your block, I draw the Tower and the reverse Knight of Swords. This is, again, about good qualities. On one hand, I destroy all the social cases around me. I give advice again. I carry the Tower. I destroy what's unnecessary. I make adjustments. I use aggression to achieve my goals. I use aggression. Maybe it's a passive-aggressive attack, not a direct one, because the Knight of Swords is direct. He's still dynamic, while the reversed one is more passive. It's like, you know, this toxicity, like they say now, this toxic lady. And this ties in perfectly with your rebelliousness. This story, I also have this rebelliousness, but it's expressed in a different way from her side.
Next is the card of the Empress. In this case, it tells me about, and the card of God next to it tells me that, how can I put it, you know, her figure inspired others. That's one of her advantages. Her figure as a socially strong woman, you know, she really inspired people, and that was a plus for her. It gave her like her self-esteem. It was a plus in her social life because, you know, respect for women, because she achieved something, because she accomplished things, and so on. As a socially strong woman, you know, she really inspired others, and that was a plus for her. This gave her like her self-esteem. It was a plus in her social life because, you know, respect for women, because she achieved something, because she accomplished things, and so on. But what I want to say is, despite her iron will, the man was helpless in some cases. She denied the invalid, the martyr, and the fool. Here I have, again, you could even say 3 or 5, the invalid, the martyr, and the fool. I need help. I need advice. Just advice. Any advice is a cross. You know, it's a burden on my shoulders. I don't know how to accept advice properly. I don't know how to ask for help. And I can't take it all in a normal way, even if someone is actually offering me that help. The plus side of the card, of the invalid, is that it hides one's helplessness. But the downside of this card is that it goes on to say that we make those movements and draw those conclusions that then carry this burden further. So in this case, we create a lot of downsides. We make those movements and draw those conclusions that then carry this burden further. So in this case, we create a lot of downsides. So in that case, we create a lot of downsides. And another upside of the negative cards is that in some cases, we can play a bit naive and say, oh God, I didn't know. Just play a little dumb. Like, oh God, I didn't quite understand.
I have an interesting connection with her. Advantages. My plus is that I'm reversed empress, which means I have minimal femininity. I actually have minimal maternal and feminine qualities. And because of this, again, it's about the denial of femininity within oneself. Like, I really want to...
The plus of emotions, especially feminine ones, that fullness of emotions, the emotionality as such.
The second point, a very interesting plus, is the suspended state. Unsure, rest. Let it be, follow the wind, go with the flow. This is like Angela Merkel, you don't know what to do, leave it hanging, go where they blow. Well, wherever it sways, that's where it sways. So I don't make unpleasant decisions. I'm waiting for these decisions to be made. On their own, well, I leave unpleasant decisions in a suspended state. It definitely throws me off my emotional balance, but not to the point where I completely panic, although it leads me to panic, to isolation, to a certain internal state, because after all, we still have that hermit within us. It brings me to a hermit-like state. And by the way, my plus is that I love the hermit state. Well, in Merkel's case, she loves the hermit state, and a strange plus is her inner king of cups. So, I manage my emotions based on what society expects from guys. Well, again, like a boy shouldn't cry, a boy shouldn't do this, a boy shouldn't do that.
In this card, it seems more shadowy because you have that black figure there, I think, like in the shadows. So what I want to say is that based on this card, I can conclude that most of the emotions we experience are within ourselves when no one is watching.
Yes, of course. Like men who were raised by patriarchy, like the boy has no right, the boy has no right. You're not a happy boy, you hide away in a corner so that no one knows that you actually have the right. Well, that's it.
So now we're going to take a hard look at the negative aspects. What was holding us back? What was holding us back? What society didn't accept, and so on. Oh, right away. Oh my God, it's pure demonization.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
So the first card I have is the Destroyer, which means something is dissatisfied, everything is falling apart, everything is breaking down everywhere. Something isn't right, something isn't done my way, there's something I don't like, everything is falling apart, everything is crashing, either like this or not at all. According to that, it's either completely this way or not at all. What we have here? Here we have a focus on control, and again, we have a reference to what we talked about our significance. In my opinion, it's either a referral or nothing. We have the Orphan card here, which often signifies loneliness, obviously a harbinger. Now the big guy and healer are opening up. What do I want to say? The downside is that we make most of our decisions on our own, again, without asking anyone for help and so on. We are alone in our decisions. We are alone in our heads. We are alone in all of this. We don't know how to work as a team. We are alone in our decisions. We are alone in our minds. We are alone in all of this. We don't know how to work as a team. We are solo players. We're not really good at being a team. And what I want to say is that in a team, we often lose ourselves. In a team, we turn into monsters. In a team, we become this very harsh person. And what I want to say is, her principled nature, her flaw, because her principled nature has led to a lot of very, very bad things. Where she could have adjusted a little, found compromises, we have that here. The eternal boy, the childishness. Where she could have adjusted a little, found compromises, we have that here. The eternal boy, the childishness. Childishness in her approach to life and her approach to basically everything she did. Eternal boy, infantility. Childishness in her approach to both life and everything she did. in general. This childishness is hidden, but it definitely exists. Let's put it this way. The political decisions made without thought were clearly there. All right?
I'm curious. I understand why I have this strange, harsh downside here, the King of Pentacles. Here he is. In the 9th month, he is, yes, the director of factories, newspapers, and steamships. But the question is, at what cost? Moreover, he is completely fixated on the material aspect. He is not empathetic. He doesn't care about other people. He doesn't care how his employees work. This is the kind of character who turns his business into a concentration camp.
Yeah, so basically bring me the money and everything will be fine.
Yes, yes. And I don't care what price you bring them to me. My task is to make sure my factories and steamships are running. Who will work for them? What happens to them? Whether they are dying or falling apart, I couldn't care less. So this is that kind of moment, again, the weak side of the Ten of Swords. That came up in questions about her trauma. So her trauma, her harsh, weak side, her pettiness, greed, again, harsh. And especially in this connection, I don't care about other people in the work context. At this moment, I don't understand why they are whining that they need a vacation. Me, you don't need it and you don't need it either. Well, this pettiness and her aggression, her initial page of swords, and then that masculine King of Swords, which on one hand comes up as a positive quality, but on the other hand as a harsh negative one. So we have this King of Swords, on which is both a plus and a minus, a characteristic and everything in the world. Not a queen, a king. This is already quite something.
I love looking at this deck specifically for the 3 main vices that guide a man. I've already gotten my people used to the fact that in this deck, I specifically look at the 3 main vices, meaning the 3 main pairs that guide that man. Or I ask the question, what's wrong? With Angela Merkel, you know, the 3 main vices. The first one we have here is masking, meaning we are not sincere. We are never sincere. We are always in a mask, the one that is convenient for us to wear at any given moment. We can smile in someone's face, but behind their back, of course, we promise to throw them under the bus, you know. At first, we'll argue about who will take them out, and then we'll throw them under the bus on top of that. So we are always in a mask. We take on the mask that we need, the one that is convenient for us. First, we'll argue about who will carry it out, and then we'll throw buckets of it on top. So we are always in a mask. We take on the mask that we need, the one that is convenient for us. Here's the shelter card. But, by the way, what do I want to say? She has been very, very secretive about her. She clearly has some. We'll take a look at this together later. She has been very, very secretive about her. There is clearly something about her. We'll take a look at this together later. But at this stage, I can already say that the person has some kind of aversion to men. She clearly has some, we'll see about that later. But at this stage, I can already say that the person has some kind of aversion to men. There might be something in her head. Maybe it's feminism. I think she has been advocating for it, but it's an unhealthy kind of feminism. Well, it's clear. There might be something in her head. Maybe it's feminism. I think she has been advocating for it, but it's an unhealthy kind of feminism.
Well, that's clear.
There's clearly an unhealthy feminism there because, look, they kiss my hand and I accept it like it's nothing. There's an unhealthy feminism there because then a more masculine card comes up. Yeah, God, and what is this? Here's the statue card. This is stagnation, by the way.
What she is so terribly afraid of.
Yes, she is terribly afraid. And her stagnation, it's very mutation. I got it all figured out. This stagnation, you know, I don't like it when I'm not in control of something, when I lose the reins of power, and when a situation requires me to be static. So, somebody's fear. And plus, when a person fell into this static state, they simply started doing whatever came to mind.
As for my 3 main vices, by the way, there's a very interesting addition. Betrayal, insincerity, knives in the back, maybe betrayal. On her part, maybe betrayal towards her. We'll need to dig into this. It's a vice, whether it's a tendency towards betrayal or some similar story. The vice is the absence and emotional instability, whether it's a tendency towards betrayal or some similar story. The vice is the absence and emotional instability. So Empathy is not about us. We don't, going back, we don't empathize, we don't take it to heart. Well, in short, it's a problem. We are not empathetic, and the illusion, I'm playing a role. Illusion, master, the same thing, by the way. So it's an illusion. Her vice is an illusion. She thinks she's Angela Merkel, the Iron Lady, but that's not true. She has taken on the image of Angela Merkel as the Iron Lady and Chancellor of Germany, to the point where she herself believes she is Angela Merkel, the Lady and Chancellor of Germany, in all those regalia. Although in reality, that's not who she is. But she has believed so much in that image that she has carried it for many years. Well, actually, it's not really her, but she has believed so much in that image that she has carried it for many years. So this is when a person has deceived themselves.
And when a subpersonality is already like...
Yes, as a personality, we already have cognitive distortion in that direction.
Now we're moving on to something interesting. This is going to be interesting. Right now we have a pool of fears, dependencies, and what she was hiding, what she was afraid of. Let's start with fears. The fears of Angela Merkel. What was she afraid of? Well, besides dogs, I think that's already well known to everyone.
And the thunder is rumbling closer.
What exactly was Angela Merkel afraid of?
So you say, as if she's not there. She is here. What is Angela Merkel afraid of? She hasn't gone anywhere. Just because she left her position doesn't mean anything. Oh, I'm so curious here. I immediately, while you were diving deep here, I just can't bring everything to the surface. I'm so afraid that everyone will find out that I stole something because I have the Seven of Swords. Everyone will find out. In fact, I'm afraid everyone will find out that I'm overfed. With the financial aspect, I'm just overwhelmed. I don't know where to put it all. I'm hungover from my indulgence in power, finances, and influence. I'm so afraid that everyone will find out that I stole something that turned into a reversed sun, meaning I took something from the European Union or from Germany, like I clearly stole something, maybe even children. Somewhere, in short, Angela Merkel stole something, and it could be material or maybe not, but clearly something is off. Makes sense. Somewhere, in short, Angela Merkel stole something, and it could be material or maybe not, but clearly something is off. That's for sure.
That makes sense. So first of all, what do I have? First, we are really afraid of our own women. We are very afraid of women like me, women who can outplay me. First of all, we are really afraid of our own women. We are really afraid of women like me. Women who can outplay me. So we are really afraid of our own women like that. We're afraid that our little schemes will actually become known. Because I have both Asmodeus and the victim of temptation here. What we were tempted by. What kind of ailments specifically did she have exactly at that particular time? Are you afraid of catching a little something?
Listen, maybe
Theophilus is here. She fears intimacy issues affecting childbirth. Listen, she has a real fear about her health, especially regarding sexual infections, because vulgar magic of lust is indeed about sexuality for us. And you should clarify if there's any precedent. Maybe because of this, she can't have children. Listen, I have Asmodeus falling here, so maybe there was a precedent.
Maybe that's why she can't have children.
Listen, I have Asmodeus falling here, so maybe there was a precedent.
Maybe something just happened.
Raman, 3 parks. The Weavers of Fate. So this is most likely a precedent. And 2 black candles. There was probably a precedent.
So we had some kind of precedent that, by the way, might, jumping ahead, be the reason why there are no children. Possibly. We'll look into this further, but it's an interesting fear. They're afraid of sexually transmitted diseases.
After that, and this probably became another burden for her in terms of those marriages not being more, And now I understand why that kiss I told you about is perceived as something dirty. It's just unpleasant. Yeah, by the way, interesting. Yeah, looked at the fears. What else? Okay, let's talk about dependencies now. What dependencies? How can cruelty be an addiction like that? We really show cruelty. It's an addiction for us. We feel good when we act aggressively. We feel good when I'm about to say something silly, but I don't want to. You know, we have a mistress in latex and with a whip, just like that. We have a purely mistress in latex and with a gossip. So dominate over men. We, in short, kind of paved the way for men, nudged them along and all that. I would put it a bit differently, like a strap-on mistress.
The viewers are piling on us in the comments right now.
We have cruelty here, manifested cruelty. That's the first thing. We have an addiction. Even though we don't work in pairs, well, not in pairs, but in a team, we are dependent on the team. We are dependent on people, and people are just tools. And plus, we are essentially dependent on them.
I'm really curious. I'm dependent on 8 swords, meaning I'm bound by what I've actually shackled myself with. So I'm dependent on my image. On my personal prison, which is both a prison and an addiction for me. I can't act or live any other way. I'm dependent on my lifestyle, which revolves around these 8 swords. Act or live differently. I am addicted to my lifestyle, which goes through 8 swords. So literally, I'm dependent on the chariot, by the way. Maybe on travel or movement. By the way, do you know what this refers to? She loves going to the cottage with her husband every weekend. So maybe I'm dependent on such trips.
Maybe it's because very often a person lacks emotions. So what we're saying is a change of scenery, emotions, and relaxation as such.
And I'm dependent on my status, marital status. This isn't really about love.
Oh, by the way, the ring of frustration.
I'm dependent on the fact that I have to be married.
With my husband.
With my husband and I have to be married? Well, like I'm dependent on the fact that I have to be a family woman, like that. Otherwise, I can't do it, and I'm even dependent on that.
I would indeed even say that she truly loved good alcohol. So what happened in the past?
So in the past, the thing is she no longer drinks. Don't say she's not alive, right? Loves good alcohol. How politics has already buried.
Good alcohol for taste, for how it goes down. It's aristocratic alcoholism.
Yes. And her husband loves it just as much. I understand. He's there sipping on some nice whiskey in the evenings.
So what was she hiding a little?
She's still hiding it. Yevhen Shivat, indeed. Angela Merkel is still alive.
What are we hiding? The decisions made took a terrible turn of the wheel in the opposite direction. So we're not moving towards development, but towards degradation. And the agreements with Satan.
I regret that I left.
Maybe I'm the ball, the caliber, and the wheels movement. You can also talk about it.
I regret and I hide. Like the reasons why I left. I regret that I left my position, that I chose moderation.
She has very hidden wealth. There, about all the wealth, it's unknown to you and us, because there's a lot of secrecy here. I show that I'm so simple, but there's money for everyone without any strings attached. Every password is mine.
I hide my third party that helped me. I hide my connections. I'm hiding my connections. And I'm also hiding some kind of illness. By the way, illness that's related to the reversed empress. Why? Doesn't she have children? I'm hiding something about my health that makes me a woman who hasn't given birth and wouldn't be able to.
Here we have some very tough hidden collaboration, I would say, that is going on, so you understand, through the court and the tower. In destruction. Collaboration in destruction. In destruction. Collaboration in destruction.
By the way, I agree with you about the wealth. There's wealth. Your mother. I'm hiding money. Which, by the way, I'm hiding money that even comes to me legally. Conditionally speaking, from some justice apparatus, because of the 8 of Pentacles and the justice. So I'm even hiding legal money. Not just illegal money, but even legal money.
So that it's not clear which of them is legal and which is illegal?
Just in case. Let's face it, just because Angela Merkel lives modestly doesn't mean she doesn't hide money under her mattress.
That her mattress itself is not stuffed with money, but with some kind of feathers or something else. So, well, now we can move on to our viewers' questions.
Let's open them up now and read what we have first.
Sure.
Oh, we have something personal there. Yes, she truly adored and loved her husband. She wanted to be with other men while being married. How many lovers did she have? Where did she hide with her lovers? In short, it's all about in love. Well, you see, Merkel had 2 husbands. So she had her first husband from whom she left, and now she has her second.
Well, look, let's answer the viewers. Now, judging by psychological moods and so on, the person did not love and was not loved in the way they would have liked. So to say that she loved her husbands, that's a no. It's more like, the most I can stretch it to is that it was mutually beneficial, maybe mutually beneficial, but not advantageous, rather mutually convenient. Well, existence. Yeah, partnership. Existence. Well, partnership. When we agreed, you can't go there, we sat together in the kitchen, drank that whiskey, and so on. We can look into why things didn't work out for her with her husbands.
You look at what went wrong with her, and I'll look at whether she had any connections in this marriage somewhere on the side. Or did Angela Merkel jump into some trouble along the way or not?
Oh my God. Good people, those poor unfortunate men over there, because of BDSM sessions, even when we don't want to. Very, very, very destructive in terms of relationships. It's like, as they say, sickle of Saturn hitting you in the balls, they didn't feel important or needed. She oppressed them with both her character and her status. I understand that she, never missed a moment to show that I was more important here. More importantly, you lived here. Plus, the ring of frustration and the inventor of evil, that is marrying the devil, that is, it's tough. They couldn't handle her. But you understand that in the media space, man leaving Angela Merkel wouldn't be very good. But when Merkel left her husband, it's perceived differently. So that's the story we have here.
By the way, I'm losing connection. Somewhere we were in the world, most likely really on some business trip or journey. Somewhere we, literally hit a wall. Well, because of the 3 of Cups, and this is very much hidden regarding this, about the High Priestess. It's a very secret. I just get the feeling that there was some kind of, let's say, an affair on the side. And it was with someone I had a working relationship with.
This is a politician.
Whether it was a politician or some, in short, important date, these were some kind of working schemes. By the way, they asked me where this event was taking place, and I was told to turn away from the crowd somewhere, well, great, in the United Cities. I understand that this whole story might be quite conspiratorial, whether it's with an apartment or something else or somewhere, so that no one knows where she is, what her car is, with 10 transfers, like in a James Bond movie. So I was somewhere in the buckwheat.
Let's take a look at it together now. They asked us questions there, but we didn't screen them. Attitude towards Ukraine. How does she feel about it? What are her views?
So you decided to bring up a blog about intimacy in relation to politics, right?
Wait, I need to ask this because might forget.
We won't forget. There's still 4 questions about Angela Merkel's intimacy. I mean, come on, you understand.
So let's think about Ukraine. Let's get back to, we're still on Ukraine then. We'll look at views on Russia to compare, and then we'll return to Angela Merkel's intimacy. So views on Ukraine. Two-faced, very two-faced views. Very, very two-faced views. And what I mean is, for some reason, we became useless to her at one beautiful moment. So it's not beneficial for me to collaborate with you, and in general, you don't provide me with any kind of useful resource. So I have nothing, like money, I don't know. Money, joy, and so on. There's no resource to collaborate with you. There's nothing to work with because we are too petty to love you.
You know what this reminds me of? Although I have a pretty good card in the layout, it reminds me of a very destructive mother, or a very destructive, stepmother. So not a mother, but a stepmother. I'm like a stepmother to you. I'm like a stepmother to you, and I see you just as a resource.
And you don't listen to me.
And you don't listen to me while you're at it. How dare you? I'm telling you.
So yeah, like the attitude. Look at the cards. It's the same cards again, even though I didn't show them before, but I'm telling you, it's the same cards again. So it's two-faced, like, yeah, we collaborate, we coexist, but there's always something more to it. Plus, Hierophant, basically. On the third side, she was looking. Let's now take a look at the views on Russia. It all started right from the cards, naturally, of course.
I have it here too. By the way, the attitude has changed now.
There was a question there. Let's also take a look at this.
No, it has changed.
Germany's view of Russia has changed, but before, we were really looking there. Our eyes were focused. We were waiting for some development. We were waiting for acceptance and even changes in the character of Russia. In Germany, there were some changes in the character of Russia. They wanted to bring in norms and so on. Well, the attitude towards Putin is clear. It's good. Let's dig deeper into why and what for. But here, it's really about Russia, plus there's money, cooperation with Russia, plus there's money.
My attitude towards Russia was wonderful, great, just amazing. The attitude has changed, by the way, also against the backdrop of money, opportunities of RFIA money, relationships with RFIA, whose pay has become less since RFI, so now the attitude has changed.
By the way, yes, they already have a defensive position. Most likely something has stopped working, either according to her agreements or some contracts, that no longer bring in that money. And I'm leaving. Most likely something has stopped working, either according to her agreements or some contracts, that no longer bring in that money. And I'm leaving. So there's satisfaction, a reset. I'm looking for my new direction. My attitude towards Russia isn't very good anymore. It's changed. My attitude towards Russia isn't very good anymore. It has already changed. So what's going on with the intimacy?
So look, we have a number of questions to discuss. We have a question related to her romantic relationship with Chancellor Kohl, which brought her into politics, and he has a great attitude towards her. And there are two hot questions. First, that she left her first husband altogether. Let's see if she had an intimate relationship with Helmut Kohl. First, she left her first husband altogether. Let's see if she had an intimate relationship with Helmut Kohl.
The agreements immediately fall apart. I can conclude based on my cards like this. This is connection that benefits us. This is a relationship, agreements that is beneficial to us. This is a connection in the agreements that benefits us.
By the way, I'm not talking about intimacy. I have everything to talk about, but not really about intimacy.
Intimacy. The braided fruit is all the same.
Well, here we go. Now intimacy. Now I've added it. I have intimacy here.
What I want to say is that there was indeed an intimate connection, not for long, not much, maybe, hysteria. But it was what I needed because it's a tool for control.
Well, the most interesting thing is that I have the impression that he wasn't pulling her in because of the intimate connection.
No, well, it's clear that was a reinforcement, you understand.
It's reinforcement, and it seems like it wasn't really necessary for her or for him, but why they, got intimate and is unclear to anyone.
They didn't agree. One thinks she needs it, the other thinks he needs it, and that's it. Interesting.
Why did she leave her first husband?
Well, let's take a look. Well, saw what was going on with her husband, and it's not great for her because of his character.
She just packed her things and left.
What? It's not that simple. No, well, that's clear. Maybe I'm just tired of it. I'm tired of it.
And I'm not just tired of it here, listen. I have Health problem. I'm leaving because I had a devil.
And a change.
Maybe, especially from her side. Whether it's betrayal, some kind of story. Yeah, listen, something very tempting is coming up for me.
I have greed, lust. What do I want to say? Now I understand why they show me that I'm tired of it. I cheated because I got tired of it, you know? I'm tired of it. I have no feelings or emotions for you. I'm tired of you. You're starting to stop even playing some sort of more or less emotional role for me. I've kind of overindulged in this sweet passion that comes and goes, really like the scythe of Saturn as we drifted apart. Should we dig into intimate connections, or whether there was an intimate connection with Putin? God, why did I even imagine that? It's a terrible visualization. No, I immediately say a categorical no. And I mean a very categorical no.
No, I immediately say a categorical no. And I mean a very categorical no. I immediately say no.
I think sometimes I'm just lazy.
I'm sick, you know. I am really not feeling well. I just cannot do it, you know. Merkel absolutely had nothing whatsoever to do with Putin. And why doesn't she have any children?
Why doesn't Angela Merkel have any children? Exorcism, something with health. I'm getting used to the idea of an abortion, or maybe I'm just thinking about pregnancy. This is purely about health, plus the mirrors of Lydia Charlotte. I might want to, but no. The victim of temptation.
I also have a heavy burden for her, a suspended state and a heavy burden. Or it's really more about the freezing of pregnancy, the impossibility. Well, in short, it's a matter of health. It's a matter of health. It's a matter of health, a matter of health, yes. So because of health, Merkel can't have children. It's like the intimate block has ended. So because of health, Merkel can't have children. Yeah, it seems like the intimate block has ended. Yeah, the intimate block, it seems like it has ended. Let's talk about the favorite question that was, is Hitler's daughter? So, is Merkel Hitler's daughter? You had a question, viewers?
But she didn't participate at all. She should have been in the blood. So, is she Hitler's daughter?
Death? Not much. No, I categorically say no again.
Black spot, magic ointment, gluttony, victim of temptation. No, this is media. It's some kind of media trick.
This is media. Yeah, I get the illusion that someone has spread, even though it's not, well, like the truth at all, has no relation to Hitler, to semi-Hitler, I don't know, to fake. This is a fake. And now there should be a stamp like that. This is fake news.
And now there should be a stamp like that. Disproved.
Disproved. It's nothing to do with Hitler. There is no relation at all. And the physiological relationship.
What's next?
Is there any evidence or indication that Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, provided assistance or support to Angela Merkel during her campaign for election to the position of Chancellor of Germany?
Right away, necromancy. The spirit of the sun, yes. He helped, but only when she was already known as Angela Merkel because of the connection. So this help wasn't just like that. She didn't just come to the post. No, she was promoted to the position, as we've already seen. Second one. At the time when she was already Angela Merkel, when she was already in the spotlight, already under her name and so on, that's when yes, he helped.
By the way, it's really interesting here. We can look into whether Merkel had any financial benefits from the second gas pipeline from Russia. Did she start to betray Ukraine even during her term as Chancellor of Germany?
So did she benefit from the gas?
Yes, from the second gas pipeline from Russia?
Of course, yes. Even understanding that this is, in a sense, a losing game, we still went for it. Because why? Because of money, pettiness, because of all this.
Yes, she does. No, but she definitely does. Let's put it this way. She definitely benefits from relationships with the Russian Federation. She definitely has funding from Russia, and she is definitely connected to Germany and the European Union's dependence on Russian energy resources. So yes, she has contributed to this. As much as possible.
About the unification of Ukraine. You know, I'm going to say it very harshly now. But history, who is this? So, you see, we are so unimportant to her. We are, so to speak, nobody, that if someone were to ask right now, hypothetically, who would say, oh, you merged Ukraine, it means this has been going on from the very beginning. And not someone saying, who is that? Where is this? So these are unimportant relationships for us.
Jenka is poisoning me, so should I somehow consider your position? I would rephrase it like this. Why should I pay attention to your opinions? You disagree. Who are you? This is just that moment?
It's a lack of recognition of us in principle. It's a lack of recognition of us within any framework. Who wanted any frameworks?
Look, there are a lot of questions about whether there are still Merkel's proxies and whether she is currently influencing politicians, swaying them towards a pro-Russian position, for example.
Yes, they are working. I still receive either some money from them or some services and so on. Influence, by the way. There is money. Like a family business, like connections, there are definitely some. Yes, I have them, and yes, I have some too.
A safe place.
And indeed, we have the same courts.
Yes, safe place. I've prepared a very safe and comfortable place for you to sit and quietly do as Frau told you.
Let's take a look. There was definitely a question about the relationship between Scholz and Merkel and whether he is a proxy of theirs.
Yeah, let us take a look.
Is Scholz proxy of Merkel?
I just immediately have a nostalgia card.
I have a 9.
And old ladies, you're sitting in a place where I've already paved the way for you to get some cash. This, by the way, explains why he was so squeamish throughout the entire beginning of the war, because in fact Merkel would behave in the same way, conditionally, without making any serious decisions. Because you can't escalate the conflict, this whole story. These are her words, this is her playbook. These are her old agreements with Russia and with Putin.
I also have here, I'm an informational engine and basically an informational assistant, so to speak. So yes, there is a connection there, and you could say it's very, very good. So what's next for us? So yes, there is a connection there, and you could say it's very, very good. So what's next for us?
Look, we have a block of interesting queries here related to whether there was a conspiracy between Merkel and Putin in connection with the war in Syria to cause this migration collapse in Europe. This is such a block of inquiry. Is it true that Putin wanted to start a war back in 2021 and was actually in collusion with Merkel, but waited until she was no longer chancellor? Well, and then we have about why she weakened Germany's defense. Well, it's already logical.
Well, that's already logical, clear.
Was there a conspiracy between Merkel and Putin specifically related to the war in Syria, meaning regarding migration? Was there some kind of conspiracy regarding migration? I have something in that direction. Not for me. Most likely, Merkel has no connection to the Syrian conflict. I mean, not a direct one. So let's put it this way. You can blame everything on Ms. Merkel, but not the migration crisis. That's what we call it, not the war in Syria, not the migration crisis.
Plus, I would say that if she knew anything about it, etc., I would say she was against it. And those pressures shouldn't involve me and so on, because we understand that this negatively affects either her status or her finances.
Well, and it's more about the country here. The most interesting thing is that this migration story, I'm asking again, is actually pressure from a third party. This is not a unilateral decision. This is not a unilateral decision. This is not a unilateral decision. Unilateral. Merkel about migration to European countries and even to Germany whether to open the doors to migrants or not. This is pressure from a third party, and so conditionally, we either all accept it or one accepts it. And this pressure is more of a European Union type. So what's going on? Is it true that Putin wanted to start the war back in 2021, but postponed it for the sake of Frau?
There is something in this, but it is still on a regular deck. Still, there is something in this logical responsibility.
And there's some part of the information, yes, but I get the impression that it's not so much directly about an attack, but more about the beginning of some kind of pressure, life, oppression, the pushing of aggressive actions towards Ukraine. So I don't think it was so much that he was planning to start a war since 2021, but I understand that maybe there was a more active preparation for actions. So I don't think he was planning to start a war since 2021, but I understand that there might have been a more active preparation for actions.
Or an active phase, because I have this lady here, a bit of a cup, who calms the tower and kind of calls for logic, So there's something here, part of it. It's really like that. Like, calm down, because a third party still has some influence over you. And here to that. And so there's something more to it here.
Merkel is involved in various mysterious and secretive occult dark organizations such as
BDSM enthusiast, all of Germany. All right, I'll take a look at these. Chancellor Angela Merkel and Mahia.
For her, this seems to create a very internal conflict.
Well, her father is a clergyman.
And she's quite a fervent Christian.
The monk Afel is not here. Plus, we see the wonders in the mirror from the series and so on. No, it's some kind of sin for her.
I get a very aggressive attitude, most likely towards witchcraft, towards the occult. Well, in short, it's actually the opposite, leading to some aggression.
That's blasphemous and unchristian.
Here they are asking if the special services will be digging into Ms. Angela Merkel and whether they will deal with her issues.
I think it's very unlikely. Seems to me very unlikely. Angela Merkel has done a great job covering her tracks. There, even if they dig, they won't uncover half of what she has done and is doing.
So the only thing they might uncover is what I mentioned at the beginning about the Seven of Swords, there where I stole something.
Either money or something, like some kind of money laundering.
They might be able to dig into this. By the way, I get the feeling that they might look into her a bit later. You know how it looks, as let's conduct an audit of the last 20 years, what has happened in Germany. So it's not just about digging into Merkel. They will investigate like the state system. And well, where did the mess start? And the mess is specifically with the defense, well, with this whole story. So short, that's how it is. So what's interesting with you and me, what is the Kremlin using to scare or blackmail her? Besides being a member of the Stasi, is she currently helping Ukraine against our order and the restoration, the USSR? Is she their siren in politics, blah, blah, blah? In short.
Okay, let's take turns.
Let's start from the very beginning. Was Merkel a member of the Stasi? Is it real or is it just rumors? Was she a member of the Stasi?
And again, the information itself about the membership, I have a court, which is very unlikely to be informational. And the star for me is always like information leak, information throw, information distortion, call it whatever you want.
I find it very interesting. I'm getting the high priestess, that is maybe at some point. I tried, had a very bad experience and moved away from this structure. That is, permanent. She definitely wasn't a permanent member. Officially joining there, therefore the Stasi will not be able to blackmail her there because there is no real substantial evidence that she was a member of the Stasi. So, somewhere along the line, she might have tried to convey something once. It didn't work out. And that's where her career in the Stasi ended with a ring.
Okay, what's going on?
So, is she currently helping the Kremlin against Ukraine and the attempts to restore the USSR? And what is the Kremlin using to blackmail her?
Well, happiness, she is helping the Kremlin. What I mean is, it still has some information, but it's no longer relevant. So, she doesn't currently possess any information that would be really useful. The only useful thing I get from her is related to the Empress. It's either land or possibly some material resource from Germany as a country, but nothing more than that.
The only useful thing I get from her is related to the Empress. It's either land or possibly some material resource from Germany as a country, but nothing more than that. Or a resource, by the way, a military one. Is Germany building up its military resources or not? Those drones that are circling above them, maybe it's a kind of reconnaissance opportunity. Well, in short, so what is the Kremlin using to blackmail her? Is he blackmailing Merkel? And what is he using to blackmail her?
He used to blackmail her, but not anymore. With what? What was he blackmailing her with?
I have something again about money here that's unclear. I can't figure it out. I'm back to talking about some sponsorship and about gluttony, greed. He probably blackmailed her with some collaborations and so on.
So, if you don't help us, if you don't follow our conditions, we will basically reveal what you feared the most, that some collaborations and enrichments will come to light, because I have here greed and a sense of it.
And from here, by the way, is a question that our viewers asked you. Did Merkel work for the KGB of the USSR? For those who don't understand where this question comes from, Merkel was born in that part of Germany that was on the other side of the Berlin Wall, meaning the area that was all about socialism and the USSR. Oh, there. This is about GDR. So, there is suspicion.
Suspicion.
Suspicion, yes.
She worked there? She worked there. She definitely reported information. The map of agreements is straightforward.
Most often some strange information, partially illusory information.
The fact that Mercury and the false nature, illusory information, maybe some propaganda inputs, she might have contributed something from that series and so on. So the information quality is questionable, but she worked there. The Kremlin uses that to blackmail her, back with the KGB.
Maybe that's what the Kremlin is using to blackmail her.
And also, back then with the KGB.
So most likely this is about compromising material on Merkel and her old connections. They annulled the coat of arms, and so you might be quiet. So this is most likely about compromising material, specifically on Merkel and her old connections. So, could Merkel have cancelled the negotiations in Minsk in 2014 and everything related to Donetsk, Luhansk, and Crimea? Could she have somehow, let's rephrase it, could she have influenced this situation differently than what we have with the Minsk agreements?
They literally banned it and crucified it.
Yeah, me too. I could have done it there before. But who let me do that?
And who allowed me to do that?
I was going exactly as the other side told me.
Moreover, as I understand it, I'm not justifying anything right now, nor am I saying anything positive. It was as if she was trying to convey that something was off here.
Or perhaps some alternative option.
But who was even listening there, and who was there?
So, we have the moment that the Minsk agreements ended up the way they did because Putin scared everyone, intimidated everyone, and made a mess of things, and everyone accepted those conditions. And they started putting pressure on Ukraine with Putin's terms, saying just quietly sign it and you can go. Well, in short, that's the whole story. And they started putting pressure on Ukraine with Putin's conditions, which you could quietly sign, and then you could Well, in short, that's all history. What was the attitude of the politicians in England and the USA towards Merkel? At that time, well, really like how they view her. Listen, this takes us back to gathering information and insights.
The attitude towards her is not very good. It is somehow hostile to them. It must be isolated and hostile to them.
Yeah, I also get the sense that there are a lot of people around her raising questions about where the money is coming from, like where are the funds from the Lyubovskys and all these financial connections. And there are hints that it seems like she's being watched, which, by the way, takes us back to the situation with the wiretapping. It's not just a coincidence. She has caught the attention of these countries. Well, in short, she's definitely raised their interest. It's not just a coincidence. She has caught the interest of these countries. Well, in short, she has caught their interest. Has Angela Merkel's attitude towards Ukraine changed?
Yes, we talked about that, right?
But does she acknowledge her mistakes? Decisions regarding Germany and regarding Ukraine?
Well, let's talk a little bit more about Germany, the country known for its rich history and culture. Regarding Ukraine, I wouldn't say much.
Yeah, regarding Ukraine, not really, because she's still aligned with the line of the King of Swords, meaning she's following the Kremlin's line.
I have Lilith here, basically. There's nothing for her to regret.
As for Germany, she really regrets that Germany is now in a state of the Five of Pentacles and the Ten of Wands, beggars, those without defense. Yeah, most likely this is about defense, not so much about money, but rather about the burdens we now have, which are quite heavy. And someone put those thoughts in her head. I mean, she didn't just sit down and cry about what she did. There was some third party involved. When she was no longer chancellor, it seemed like someone from her team finally reached out to her saying, "What have you done?" And she finally accepted it.
But I doubt she would say that publicly. Yeah, because on the other hand, I hear that if she had the chance, she would have done things differently. So I would have done things differently. We still have a lot to cover because our broadcast is already on. I don't know who will be watching this.
It's time to write another one. Now we're done. We finished. We've already covered all the main points that were of interest regarding Merkel. We've already looked at it together.
First of all, I want to say, share your thoughts in the comments about this format of ours. That's the first one. Secondly, if you want us to take a look at someone together, write those candidates in the comments and we'll check them out. And I think this format has a right to exist because it's interesting. Yeah, and periodically we can review some interesting figures together with Zhenya from time to time. And I think this format has a right to exist because it's interesting.
Yeah, and periodically we can review some interesting figures together with Zhenya from time to time. Alive, dead, half alive.
Well, yes, whether they are relevant or not, who could have left a mark and so on in this story of our lives together. That's all for today. We hug everyone, lift each other up, and see you at our next meetings.